If you're looking to stay on top of what is in your Notion workspace, reminders are going to be your friend. And yes, Notion does actually have built-in reminders. This function can be a little bit tricky to find, and on top of it, there are so many different ways that you can actually set them up. Today, I am sharing 5 different ways that you can set up reminders inside of your Notion workspace, including a brand new feature that Notion just rolled out. So get ready to feel even more organized in your workspace. As a quick note before we jump in, reminders in Notion are going to appear in your inbox in the left sidebar right here. If you want to use Notion reminders effectively, I highly recommend keeping this clean and cleared out because it can be really easy to lose notifications if there is a ton of stuff in here. Once you have addressed a notification, you can come to your inbox and mark it as read, and you can also archive it to remove it from your inbox. You can always find these again later by coming up here to the filters to find unread or archived things. So don't worry about completely deleting notifications. You can always come back and find them, but I do recommend keeping your inbox clean because it will serve you well in the long run. And as a little tip, if you want notifications on your phone as well, be sure to have the Notion mobile app installed. Then you'll automatically get the notifications there too. So let's kick off with option number 1. With this option, all we need to do is type our reminder straight into a Notion page. So you can do this pretty much everywhere. This is a very simple option, and honestly, it's one of the easiest ones. So all we need to do is to go somewhere in your page, type @ and then remind, and then you'll be able to choose when you want to remind yourself about whatever it is you're going to type here. So if you have a specific day that you want to do this, you can actually start by typing in the date. So let's just say I want to go all the way out till next year. I can totally do that if I want to. You can also use relative terms. So if you want to say, remind me on Monday, you can do that too. If you're wanting the week ahead though, I do recommend typing in next Monday, because then you'll make sure to get the next week instead of the current week that you're on. So once you have that set, you can go ahead and click on that, and you can see a little reminder pops up for next Monday. Now, this is just gonna send you a blank reminder, so you actually want to put the reminder right next to this as well. So for this, maybe if I say I want to take out the trash on Monday, then it's going to send me the reminder with take out the trash. So it's going to look at what's in this block that you're typing in. So like I said, you can set reminders like this anywhere in Notion. You can do it on a dashboard page. You can do it on a database page, pretty much anywhere you can type. But do keep in mind, right now, you cannot do it in comments. So if you're leaving a comment on a page, you're not going to be able to set a reminder there. I'm really hoping this gets updated in the future because I think it would be super helpful to be able to set reminders from comments as well. Another option we have is to set a reminder on a date. This works whether it be inside of a page or inside of a property. You name it, if you click on a date, you'll be able to set a reminder for it. So if you're setting this for a date that is considered text, this is going to work very similarly to the reminder we just set. If we see a date mentioned anywhere in any text, so if I just mention next Thursday, for example, I can click on that and then set a reminder from here. So this is just kind of an extra step. If there has already been a date that's been typed out and you want to go ahead and add a reminder to it, you can. It's going to be easier to do it the first way because we just typed in the reminder immediately. But it doesn't have to be just in text like this. We can also do it from a date property. So for example, if I click into my task here to film this video that I'm working on and I go to the due date, I can click on the due date here and turn on my reminders. So there's a few different options that we have. We could do it on the day of the event at 9 a.m. I do personally like this one the most. You could do it a day before, 2 days before, or a week before. Now, if your date actually has a time associated with it, you get lots of more options. So if I go ahead and choose to include time right here, and then I go to the remind, we see we have at the time of the event, 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, an hour before. And so there's lots more options when it comes to the time if you include a time with that date. Personally, when I use reminders in my task database like this, I just go ahead and remind myself on the morning of the event. that does the job for me for the most part. Since we're talking about dates in properties, let's go ahead and talk about the brand new feature that Notion just rolled out. You can now set an entire date property to have a default reminder. So if you find yourself setting individual reminders on your date properties quite often, this is probably an option for you. What this means is we can essentially go to the property for the due date, click on that and edit the property, and we now have the option to set notifications. So any page that gets added to this database will have a default notification. So if I go ahead and click on that, we're gonna see the same options that we had for the date before. If we wanna do the day of, a day before, 2 days before, etc. But do note that even if you do include the time, it is not gonna necessarily change these options here. So if you have a database with a date property that you know you want a reminder consistently for all of the pages across the board, you can go ahead and set this up and get those reminders automatically. Some examples of where you might want to use this feature is if you have a bill tracker or a subscription tracker where you might want to be notified on the day of or a couple days before a subscription or bill recurs. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend adding this to your tasks database because that will cause lots of notifications and your inbox will fill up real quick. Instead, I highly recommend having a system set up so you can come in and see exactly what you need to be working on each day, kind of like I have here in my daily planner. And if you want to swipe my setup, I will leave the link for you down below. Now, a completely different method for getting reminders in Notion is to use recurring templates. I have a separate video on all of the different ways that you can set up recurring tasks within Notion, so I highly recommend checking that out for more information on getting these set up. But the idea with this is that you would set up recurring templates in your databases, kind of like I have here. And the trick is when you have a property, a person property specifically, that you can assign that specific task or that page to when it recurs, it will send you a notification. That's actually how I have this Write Paycheck task set up. It is a recurring task for me, so I don't forget to do it. So you can see exactly what that notification would look like here in my inbox. It says Notion mentioned you in Write Paycheck. And for me, that is enough of a reminder to be like, okay, hey, I have to do this today. So again, just to take a look at the template itself, if we edit this template to peek inside of it, you can see that the due date is going to be set for today, which just means the day that it actually recurs. It'll recur every so often when I write my paychecks. And then I make sure that the assigned property has me in it so that it does send me that notification. This is personally one of my favorite ways to set up reminders in Notion because you can truly just set these and forget them. Not really forget them because you will be reminded and you can do them after that. Now, this trick of using recurring templates actually works similarly for Notion automations. If you are on a paid version of Notion and you want to use automations, you have a couple of options here. The first option is to essentially build what would be a recurring template as a Notion automation. So what this means is in our automations, if I go ahead and add a new automation to my tasks database, what I will do is for my trigger, it will happen every so often, the same kind of frequency I would set up for a recurring template. What happen is a new page would be added to my task list. And then I can make sure that that assigned property does contain me like I was talking about before, so that when the page recurs, it sends me that notification. So if you don't want to use the recurring template option, this is a different way to build that. However, automations now have a send notification action, which means that you don't necessarily have to be creating a new page to get a notification about something. So if you want to be notified that a page is edited or there's a different trigger that you want a notification to be based on, you can set it up that way. And so instead of adding a task, what we'll do is we would send a notification to, and then I can choose who gets that specific notification and what the notification says. Now, this also means you could add a page to a database that doesn't necessarily have an assigned or person property to add yourself to, and instead send a notification. So in this case, I could still add my task here, but instead of assigning it to myself, I can just go ahead and delete this step completely and instead send myself a notification that has a custom message when this task gets added. So this is just a way to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more custom if you have automations in your workspace. Okay, I know that was a lot of options for reminders, but hopefully one of these options feels like a good fit for you and your workspace. I'm curious which method you liked best, so let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you have questions, be sure to leave them in the comments as well. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you might know that I am expecting an baby is due super soon. So I want to share exactly how I am using Notion to plan out my maternity leave to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row before he arrives. If you're curious about my process, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss it. Until then, feel free to come hang out with me and learn exactly what I look for in functional Notion workspaces as I rate and audit my own Notion pages in this video. I will see you guys in the next one.